Thank you so much. So when it comes to reporting your quantitative results, I will talk about some of the common mistakes that MA students make when they write their quantitative results report. Either you're writing your thesis, your PhD thesis, you're writing your MA dissertation, you're writing a paper to publish, you are writing a proposal, whatever you're writing, you need to know when it comes to academic writing, as Dr. Turki said, it's different. It's not only about knowing how to speak English or knowing how to read English, it's about how to write, the structure, the language, the style, the coherence, the cohesion. All these factors need to be considered carefully when you write your report. Any final report you're writing, as I said, if it's a thesis, dissertation, paper, it doesn't matter. You need to discuss the preferred format with your supervisor. Again, when she said when we have different opinions of different supervisors, it goes back to their disciplines, even in writing, in different disciplines when it comes to science or philosophy, or you will have different styles according to the discipline. How would you have an idea, or let me say the full picture about how they write in that discipline when you read? When you read papers, when you read references, when you read books in your discipline, okay, in your major, you will have an idea and you will consume how other writers or experienced or experts write in your field, okay? So always consult your supervisor and discuss the requirement and be consistent with that. Ask the instructor and consult similar articles, as I said. In any final report, you have abstract, literature review, you have methodology, you have the analysis, discussion, references, but I will only focus on the difference between reporting your results and discussing your results, okay? The biggest mistake that I've always noticed when reading students' papers or dissertations or assignments is that they confuse analysis of or reporting the results with discussing or interpreting your quantitative results. Collecting data and analyzing data in quantitative research is not an easy task, okay? I remember the first time I used SPSS, I cried. I always tell my MA students about this. It was something that made me reconsider doing MA. Okay, learning something new like that, and I was I had stopped learning mathematics for a long time. Why are you teaching me numbers now? SPSS was, for me, was a huge thing to learn. Why I am learning how to use SPSS and how to analyze and go through numbers. I was an MA student, of course. I didn't know that this is a research method, one of the tools that we are using to collect data and analyze it using software, okay? So after you finished or accomplished that mission, now you come to a new task, which is writing and reporting the numbers that you had a look on, or the numbers that you dealt with. How would you? I remember the first time I went to my supervisor who was teaching us research methods. I said, okay, I know the numbers. I taught myself. I had a long journey. I've watched videos on YouTube. I taught myself how to use it. But how will I know what numbers I should select, but I don't know how to report them, how to write them, okay? So to communicate your results, and the practical significance. When we talk about significance, we are talking about the audience, okay? When we talk about who would you benefit by reporting those results? Are you benefiting researchers, professionals? Who are you giving this knowledge to, okay? So you need to be very sensitive to audience, okay? And you need to write your results or your findings in a clear, straightforward, and appropriate language. When we say your analysis section, it includes reporting and discussing your results, but we focus more on reporting the results. Sometimes you have to two methods in reporting your results. Sometimes you need you can combine or separate the results. If you separate them, just think about it like I want to show the results, show the results of the tests that I made on SPSS. Then I will discuss them and interpret them and relate them to the literature or relate them to my research questions, okay? And in some cases, what will help you to make that decision is what type of report you're writing. Is it a dissertation? The word limit is the word count is very important. Is it a dissertation? Is it an article? Is it an 8,000 word article? Is it a 3,000 word article? Is it a small study that you are submitting to pass a course in the MA? Is it a report? Okay, just decide from the beginning in advance. Think about it. Will I combine, present the results and discuss them in an ongoing process on the same time, or I will just separate and try? When you say I will separate the discussion from the reporting, just control yourself. It really needs control. Control yourself that I will not go into any details except reporting the results of t-test or ANOVA test or ANCOVA or correlation test, whatever you conducted. What to include when it comes to reporting your quantitative results? Include what supports. When I say here, make your selection criteria explicit, one of the common mistakes, again, that I've noticed, students feel that they need to report anything interesting they found, okay? It's tempting, but it's unwise. It's very tempting to see something that is very interesting, you didn't even think about, you didn't even ask about, but you see a correlation or you see a significant difference that you haven't talked about. You have two options here. Okay, but you have to make your selection criteria very explicit from the beginning. You have two options. Either you expand your research and discuss it with your supervisor, saying that this is something, but it has to be relevant, of course. You can't take something irrelevant just because it's interesting and tempting. You want to report it. Just discuss it, say that there is something interesting that I would like to report, but the wise option is to exclude and avoid anything irrelevant. That is the wise option that you should take. Include what supports the points you are making. When you select the findings, whatever you see, include what answer your questions. Your questions or your hypotheses guide you to select specific numbers or specific findings, specific correlations, specific differences. What guides you is your research questions that you detected from the beginning, okay? Extra details, if you feel that extra details need to be reported, put them in the appendix. That is the wise decision, okay? What is the difference between results and discussion and conclusion? I will go more into depth with writing, but think about what is when you are asked by your supervisor, by someone, by a peer, by a colleague, what is your result? Or write your result section subheading and write your discussion section as a subheading. You need to understand the difference. In summary, results section, you simply present what you found. You just simply present it. Just say that there is a relationship. There is a significant difference. There is a negative or a positive relationship, okay? But in the discussion section, you try to explain what do these results mean to your study, to the audience, to the literature. What will they contribute to the literature? What do they support? What do they reject? And how they relate to the literature. When it comes to the conclusion, you restate the main points. You want to show your own conclusion, what you have found at the end, what you can assume based on the evidence that you provided, okay? You restate the main points in a new, concise way that you want your readers to remember. This is your conclusion part. When we talk about the difference between results, reporting results and discussing results, I need to discuss some points here. When you report your results, include the experimental data, not the interpretation. Don't interpret anything. Don't tell the meaning of anything that you are reporting, only numbers. Incorporate statistical analysis where applicable. Whatever statistical tests you conducted, report them. Follow sequential organization, and we will talk about the organization later. In presenting your data, you should be organized and you should plan in advance. Include texts, figures, tables. I don't want to forget this point. I remember when I taught my MA students, I clearly explained to them that there are accepted methods, accepted tools that can be considered in research. When you, for example, distribute or administer a questionnaire using Google, okay, Google form or something, there are different tools. It will tell you, it will give you some initial, okay, results, but they are not, we cannot rely on them. They are not reliable. Even if you go to SPSS as a reliable tool and find identical results, we cannot take the results that you have presented from Google. They have those pie charts, and when I ask them, I always say that you should follow the reliable tools that should be accepted, but they bring those type of results saying it's the same. No, it's not the same. Even tables and figures in different disciplines, they have like a template to follow. Like, for example, when you conduct in one of the books, and I will talk about consistency later, it tells you even what lines to keep and what lines to delete in the table. Okay, so you should, for example, remove the vertical lines, leave. Sometimes it's the style of the journal. Okay, they ask you to do that. Sometimes it's the instruction of a book and research methods in your field. So you should follow them. It's not random. It's not something that you do out of what is attractive and what is not attractive, what is clear, what is not clear. No, there are requirements that you should follow. Avoid speculation, any guessing, just avoid them. When it comes to the discussion part, explain any surprising or unexpected or inconclusive result, or even recommend future research if you couldn't reach the point that you wanted to discuss and you are out of time, you have to submit. Just discuss those limitations. If it's unexpected or surprising, do not ignore them. Do not ignore the results. Again, a common belief among MA students that if my hypothesis is rejected, that means that my thesis is weak or my research is not good. No, it's not like that. Even if it's rejected, you can publish in the best journal in your field with a rejected hypothesis. Okay, so when you find that you assume that there is a relationship, but you find your finding showed surprisingly that there is no relationship, you can publish with that. Do not ignore unexpected or surprising results. List the major findings of your study. Always list them at the end of the section or the chapter. Interpret and explain the finding effectively. I'm talking here about the discussion part. And again, there are three slides about discussion. I don't want to go in depth now. Mention any limitation when it comes to the findings. Restate what others have done. Relate your findings to other findings of other studies. Here are some techniques to differentiate your own research from previous research when it comes to writing, selecting your vocabulary, selecting your words. Always, if you can, use the first person, like I, we, okay? In our study, my data, our data shows this and shows that, reveals this, reveals that. Again, you are selecting the relevant findings and relevant results that is related to your research questions and your hypotheses. Consistently use this word, this, when you refer to your own research, and refer to previous research by name or place or time. For example, Dr. Mariam said this, Dr. Soha said that in 2017, in 2000, whatever. Just mention them by name, by articles, and when you talk about your research, say this research, the current study, the present study, okay? This study, the finding of this research, and this is an example of how to refer to other people's work, a previously study in China, in Australia, by this and that showed the following. Make reference to similarities and differences. When you discuss, you are not reporting, you are discussing the results, always make reference to the similarities and differences between what you have found and what other researchers found in the past. Okay, always say similar research, similar studies were conducted to investigate this problem, and they found 1, 2, 3. Okay, in line with other studies, in line with other research, previous research, my study or our study found this and that. Okay, this is about similarities. When you are talking about differences, you use different language, of course. You say different from, in contrast with other studies, in contrast with previous research, our study or my study found this and that, or showed this or revealed this. Use the present perfect, has and have with past participle. This is not an English class, but use present perfect to highlight the recent relevance of your research in comparison with earlier research, referring to it in the simple past. When you talk about the other studies, use the simple past, but when you relate, use the present perfect. I don't want to make it noisy. This study has shown, you notice here present perfect, has shown a prevalence rate of 2.5, which is greater than that found by Smith, because I'm talking about a previous study. But when I relate my study to that study, I use the present perfect. To communicate your results effectively, make it reader friendly. Always think about the audience, okay? Are you writing to your supervisor? Are you writing to a committee? Are you writing to a company that will sponsor you in your research? Let's say you are doing research for a company or an organization, not academic. Think about the audience, okay? Is it a paper in a journal, and is it an article that you need to follow a specific style? Have an accessible language. Renowned scholars have always written very clearly. They avoid complicated jargon-filled language. Don't make it thinking that I always say writing academically is not a talent. It's not a talent that needs creativity and to write in an attractive way. When you write academically, you think about structure. You need to be very clear, very concise about what you are saying. Do not exaggerate, do not add unnecessary, always trim what is unnecessary. Don't write two adjectives to describe, for example, the participants. Choose one adjective that is very concise, that describe to the reader what you want to say. Tell a story, not only in writing. Telling a story when you report your results or report the findings or discuss them, even if it's a presentation like what we are doing today, or you are in a conference, you want to report your results, telling a story always make it easier to the reader, the examiner, the audience to follow you. When you say, I will start here, this is my question, I did this, I did that, I conducted this test, that's what we are talking about today, in order to investigate or to examine the relationship or to answer the first question or to test that hypothesis. When you say that and at the end you give us the conclusion, you are telling a story. Telling a story means that you shouldn't get out of the line. While you feel tempted to talk about something irrelevant, go back to the main story again, okay? When you report the quantitative results, when you start writing the report or the results, the analysis section, think about what you need to report. First, normally we start with the demographic data that describe our sample. who participated in this study. We know that, I will not talk about details, like we know that in quantitative research, the sample is large, right? So you need to mention the number, the nationality, the age of the participant, describe the sample using demographic data that I consider them finding, because you need SPSS in order to take those numbers, and you will go to descriptive statistic in order to say how many females, how many males participated in the study, how many Saudi, how many non-Saudi. So start always with the demographic data in order to describe the participating sample. Remind the readers again of your research questions or hypotheses. Most of the time, hypotheses would take the place of the research question, because the research question in quantitative research, what would it be? What is the relationship between this factor and this factor, this variable and this variable? What is the difference between this group and this group? What is the difference in the score according to that factor between these two groups? What is the effect of something on something if you are investigating causal relationship? So remind the readers. I always say, do not repeat yourself. If you say, what is the relationship? Do not write a hypothesis that says there is a relationship between this variable A, and variable B. You're repeating yourself. What is the difference? There is a difference between this and this. Choose, select, be wise when you write. Does it replace each other? Can I use them interchangeably? Okay. Name the statistical test, and I will show you an example of how to report the specific tests when you report their findings. Name this is very important. You can't say, for example, that I used SPSS in order to investigate this, or I used SPSS in order to find the relationship between this and this. No, you need to name the statistical test, either it's t-test, correlation, ANOVA, ANCOVA, and what you use them for. Then report the statistical results through means, standard deviation, coefficient, p-values, effect size, all these numbers. As I said from the beginning, you already had a long journey learning how to analyze, using video, using personal tutor. You already know the numbers. You have the mean, you have the standard deviation, you have the values, the scores. But you are going now to the stage where you need to write them and communicate them to the reader, okay? Report the results, use tables and figures, as we say, to summarize the results. Provide, and when you provide a table, just provide the title, introduce them, and comment on them, but without interpreting them if you decided to separate reporting from discussing. State which differences and relationships are significant. In your field, you will find a way to indicate or state the significant differences or significant relationship. There is, I'm sure that you have dealt with SPSS before. You have a way to present it by using a star, or by talking about them inside the text. There are different ways to state the differences or the significant differences and relationships. Indicate whether the hypothesis is supported or rejected. Okay, sometimes you don't have hypothesis. Sometimes even quantitative research, you have a question. Is there a relationship? Is there a difference between Saudi and non-Saudi? Is there? So you need to answer those questions. You can't write questions and report irrelevant results. You need to report the results that answer the question or support or reject the hypothesis. How to organize them? When you already have your results, you have them in front of you on a blackboard, how would you organize them? There are different ways to organize the results in that section. The first one is topical. So you follow a theme-based structure or a topic-based structure, similar to the structure. Again, it's not random. You go back to your literature review. What points did you discuss in the literature review? What topics, what themes you have discussed, and you organize your section to report results following the same way, okay? If any new topics emerge, and that's what I was talking about a few minutes ago, if you find something tempting, something unexpected, new topics emerge from the analysis, you should acknowledge them and you should go back to the literature review. Again, if it's a PhD or a master dissertation, you need to discuss this with your supervisor, because sometimes it's unwise. It will not add anything to your topic, okay? It's interesting, but it's unwise. The results section is not for the sake of analysis. Remember, you are not in the discussion stage yet. You should write it in lucid manner so that it is self-explanatory. So when we see the topic, we know that you are discussing that theme or that topic, and these are the results related to them. Another way of organizing your results is according to the research. So the subheading here will be the research question or the hypothesis. This is the subheading that you divide your section through. Employ your research questions as subheadings, and under every subheading, you start reporting the results the way I will show you, using the language that should be used. Remind your reader of the purpose of your study. Always, indirectly, implicitly, remind your reader of the purpose of your study, why you are focusing on that relationship, why you are focusing on that difference. Start the summary of the results with in response to research question 1. When you divide your section using research questions or hypotheses, start with saying in response to research question 1, a t-test or a correlation test was conducted and this was found or this was revealed. Remind the reader with the type of analysis you performed. Present the results in a simple and clear format. These are, I only selected 4 or 5 scripts, okay, to show you how writing or reporting your results is not random. I will not, of course, I will not read them to you. I will just show you why I reported them or why I show you the script, because I have noticed when I taught MA students, I have noticed that they try to, I didn't touch anything. They try to convince me or deliver to me what they have done. Sometimes it's unnecessary to mention some information are not. Is it from here? Maybe the mic, the one that is there, the other one, yes. Sometimes the, which one? I thought it's that one. Sometimes the students, the MA students, especially MA students, report they want to show the effort that they made, okay? But when it comes to academic writing, you shouldn't mention them. There are specific information that need to be reported after analyzing your data. So if you are conducting, for example, independent sample t-test, okay? We normally use t-test to compare between groups, right? To compare the scores between two groups. You say, if you, before I show you the script, in your field, there are books that called research methods in applied linguistics, research methods in medicine, in health, and follow them. You have to follow the known style in your field, okay? But there are main components like this. When you say a t-test was conducted, was carried out, okay? In order to start a paragraph that would like to show specific finding related to one question or a hypothesis. You say an independent sample t-test was conducted to compare, for example, language anxiety level in students who received this and that, and the students who did it. So we have two groups here. When you go and consult the reference, the book in your field, you will find maybe, this is very common and we all know them as researchers, but maybe you find specific numbers that only in your field, okay? Some journals ask, for example, for the effect size. They will not publish your article if you don't report effect size of your result after finding the significant differences, after they need to see the effect size. So you have to be consistent and follow the requirement of your field or your disciplinary. The Numbers that we know are always needed to be reported: the mean, the standard deviation, the p-value, significance, and the effect size, but it's optional. As I said, effect size would be asked specifically by some journals and some committees and some supervisors as well. So just take the script, change the numbers. Do not try to be creative. Do not try to show the effort that you made. Take the script, know exactly what numbers are needed to be reported, and take them from SPSS, as I said, from the analysis that you made, and fill the script. The Pearson correlation coefficient was computed, was carried out, was conducted in order to examine the relationship. Is this discussing? This is reporting. If I was, my student wrote this, I would say, you can leave this sentence. This suggests that, but you can remove it if you want to discuss later. It's not a big deal. But for me, I prefer at least one sentence after reporting the results, okay? At least one sentence, simplify the statistical language. When I say there was a negative, for example, a negative relationship between this variable and this variable, at least add one sentence after that saying that means if this variable increase, that variable will decrease. So you just simplify the statistical language in case if someone who is not from the academic field read your report. A t-test was conducted to examine the effect. Again, these are all the same. Because I know that this will be sent to the students, right, Dr. Soha? These slides. Of course, yeah, I would love to for them to be sent. You can see them. You can measure what you need in the future using different templates and different. My main point, or the key word, the key factor that I want you to remember from what I'm saying today is be consistent and do not use random language and do not overwrite what you have done. Just be concise and straightforward. Mention what needs to be mentioned. When writing your results, remember, you should match your results or finding with your research question. Never use irrelevant results. Your analysis should mirror your methodology. So you can't, for example, in your methodology say that we will use this and that, the quantitative tools, the quantitative methods, the quantitative instruments. And then in the results section, you start writing about themes, about codes, for example, which Dr. Mariam will talk about how to report qualitative results. You can't mention something that is not matching with your methodology, okay? Do not report qualitative results at all if your methodology was, your method was quantitative, sorry. Only report your results, not others. Don't mention any others because you are still in reporting results section. You are not in the discussion. Report positive and negative results. And that goes back to the point where I said when your hypothesis is rejected, do not ignore the result. If it's negative, if it's unexpected, if it's interesting, you should answer the question that you asked. You should test the hypotheses that you have formulated from the beginning. Avoid discussing or interpreting the results because you are only reporting here. Avoid attempting to explain your findings by presenting background information, talking about, for example, there is a relationship as I expected because I am a math teacher and I expected that is over-interpreting, and you are mentioning background or something that is not related to the findings, the quantitative findings. Never ignore the negative results. As I said, include raw data in the appendix. Do not make, especially if it's a paper that will be sent to a journal, or do not mention all the numbers. Mention only the numbers. And when it comes to tables, again, be consistent and follow one book or one reference where it shows how to draw the table, which lines, vertical lines or horizontal lines you need to delete or omit. You need to know this. Report other results. Avoid reporting other results. When it comes to discussion, let me see the time. We have only 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Okay. When it comes to the discussing your results, now you are moving to a different stage. You are not reporting. You need to discuss your results. Discussion, in brief, is interpretation of the findings that make connections between your results, okay, and existing theory, previous research. You need now to connect them and relate them to each other. You need to answer the question. When discussing your results, do not repeat your results. This is a common mistake. I always saw students who wrote the results again when they are required to write a discussion section. They write the results again. There was as if they summarize the results. You never repeat the results. Do not repeat them, just refer back to them. The relationship that was detected between variable A and variable B means or suggests or shows. You never say there was a relationship. You never repeat, okay? Explain the meaning. Hyperactivity. Explain the meaning of the findings, okay? Engage the reader in thinking critically. I'm just afraid it's noisy to the audience. Maybe there is another mic. Engage the reader in thinking critically. Just, I will not say use rhetorical questions or write in academic manner, but make the reader feel interested in criticizing your results, okay? Consider alternative explanations. Do not be stuck to one explanation that support your belief or thinking that you are right or that will add to the value or contribute to the value of your paper or contribute better to the literature. Just consider any other researcher's explanation of these findings. Show them that you are balanced and, thank you, you're balanced and you know that these findings can be explained in a different way, okay? Demonstrate the importance of your finding. Again, when you talk about importance, significance, always think about the audience. Who would you benefit? Are you benefiting researchers or professionals, or just think about it? What are the implications to theory and practice of your findings? What is the contribution? How will you add to the existing knowledge? How will you add to the previous literature? Restate the major findings when you are discussing them, even if you put them in a list, okay? The major findings that answer the question, you can restate them again in a short list in the discussion section. Contrast your finding to similar studies and different study. Explain why your findings differ from others. Acknowledge the limitation. Reveal new gaps. Always when you answer your questions, think about what other questions that raised, okay, in order to reveal new gaps in the literature and recommend new questions in future research. Make suggestions for future research. When you discuss the results, think about, well, again, similar to reporting your results, will I discuss my results according to the research questions or according to the hypotheses? If I report according to the hypotheses, do my results support the initial hypotheses, support the hypotheses partially, or disprove or reject my hypotheses? In discussion section, also, we link our findings to the literature, highlight agreements and disagreement with previous studies, and we criticize our findings. When we discuss the results, we criticize our findings in presenting our own interpretation, considering the strengths and weaknesses of alternative explanation, okay? Remember also in the discussion part to address if the hypotheses are supported or refuted, always remember that, especially if you formulated hypothesis in the beginning. Consider if the manipulation was effective, okay, like check measure, discuss significance, link the results with the past research. Also to logic, if you have experience in your field, in your career, you can link the results to the logic and your experience. Discuss any threats to the validity, indicate the implication, and recommend further research. Thank you for listening. I'm happy that we finished within time. I'm ready to take any questions if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatemah, for this excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Quantitative results. Anyone in the audience interested in raising questions about how to report, how to write, how to talk about quantitative results? Anyone doing or considering doing quantitative studies?
كان قاعد يلعب معي أنا بس من أول أقول قاعدة شككتني رفعت يدها.
Thank you, Dr. Fatemah, for your excellent presentation. I think I have a few questions because they, I find it going through them a lot. One is, especially with study sample, sometimes they say be specific, be specific. I'm just trying to find a balance because sometimes they criticize being so specific to the limit where they are really limited and they cannot be applicable to other contexts. So is this like something, I don't know, is it something specific to some certain fields or is it advisable or not?
When they ask your supervisor, you mean your supervisor, right? When they ask
you myself, like I want to do something and sometimes when I go to other study, they find it very specific. I do benefit from them in other fields. Sometimes I criticize them for that. But sometimes when I go to the supervisor, they say, be specific because your time is limited. So I'm just saying, is it something recommended or because just size is just so big?
Just to be clear, are you asking about reporting results or in general? When you okay, that is different. Of course, now when you use the tools, and for example, SPSS, it tells you there are some, let's say, equation that could be made in advance in order to know the best number that will give you good results in your study, okay? There are equations that you can use in SPSS, but normally it depends on the population that your sample represent. Okay, if you want to talk about a population, let's say students of King Abdulaziz University, they are thousands, okay? If you want to have a good effect size or good results at the end, your sample should be large, okay? It will match your population. If you want to represent thousands, you need at least hundreds, okay? Not 70 or 60. I hope I understood your question. You have a problem with the word specific.
Yeah, just like sometimes when I'm trying to read books or chapters that like published in like some well-known journals, sometimes they would criticize this in some papers, like they are too specific, they cannot be applicable in other like context. So I'm just saying maybe if I didn't do this.
What is not applicable to other contexts? What is criticized in our research in Saudi Arabia?
Let's say, for example, like this is just too specific of context that cannot be applicable in another context. So why are we doing this research? Why are we like publishing this study in our journal and just to limit to a specific context?
You mean your results are not applicable to other countries? That's what you're saying here. Not you, but that's what they are criticizing.
With like a point, if I'm just being exclusive, why is it like always just be specific? I'm just asking if it's something like.
Did you
go big? Is it going to be always negative?
Okay. Being that you find interesting or unexpected results or something that is only applicable to Saudi Arabia add to the value of your paper. It's like filling a gap. It's like originality. It's like novel results that you are talking about. I'm deeply sorry, but I couldn't understand where the problem is when you talk about being specific. It's fine.
I think it's just like a different perspective on reporting on a specific. Yeah, so I'll bring you.
I think she has other questions.
I guess it's just she's bringing in like a different perspective on contextual studies, like studies that focus on a certain context. So she's saying that she read in some papers that research, Saudi research is like indeed only applicable to the Saudi context. So that's like a weak point to the research to do this area. So
have you ever received criticism like this? Because this doesn't make sense. Normally, when you have something that is only applicable, results that is only applicable to one place, it opens the door to other researchers in other contexts to try to compare their results or conduct similar studies in order to compare their results to our results, and it will add value to them to find that it is different from our results. We can discuss because of the time. We can discuss it more outside. I need to understand
it's
it.
just like a perspective and opinion, right?
Yeah.
And for every opinion, there's a counter opinion, and that criticism, if you feel like it's valid, then that's a different story. But if you feel that no, they're missing the point, and there's like one step in a longer step, or a longer journey, where people can probably take the results of that study and compare it with a different context, and then probably highlight the contextual factors. So there's always like there's no there's rarely like a black and white in research, and when it comes to opinion, there's always a counter
Different opinions, right?
Where there's a debate, people sometimes it's just like an interesting opportunity probably to contribute to that debate and maybe state your opinion if you feel this is not really should be. So is it there's a second question?
Yes.
Yeah, it's about I think the quantitative, because sometimes we have like some kind of a pilot study, and we are already having the questions and we are already having the results. So I'm just asking, is it like a wise move to go first to the data and then match it to a theory, or start with the theory and then do the
Let me ask Dr. Mariam first. Will you talk about this point, or shall I answer her question about following? No, just because I don't want to waste your time. If you will talk about it, okay. Did you say because she will talk about qualitative results, Dr. Mariam? In qualitative research, you go into that field with open, vague structure, vague, open mind, okay? So you let the information, the analysis, the themes, everything emerge from the data that you have collected, okay? When it comes to theory, if you read the books that talk about qualitative research, you will find that rarely, because that was my question as a student. Is it impossible to start with a theory? Should I always be open and vague and start with nothing in my mind? Can I have a theory, then try to, because if you have the theory from the beginning, what should be done is quantitative research. You formulate hypotheses, okay, and take them from that theory, then start testing in order to modify the theory or support the theory or reject the theory, whatever you want to do. But I will say over 90% of the qualitative research start with no theory. Your main goal is to develop a theory, to generate a theory at the end. You know that there is grounded theory studies, even when you use applied thematic analysis, for example, as a qualitative method to analyze your data, you develop a theory at the end. So why would you start with a theory? Did you get my point? But in some research, you will find them starting with theory.
in certain fields, like they are suggesting that you use the framework or something, so I'm just trying to figure out which.
after the data, after the analysis and the concepts and the themes that emerged, okay, you might find a theory in the literature and you start linking the theory to your results and discuss, but you don't start with it.
Sometimes I use AI tools, and they use like visuals and representations that are I don't know how to convert into space. So is it fine if I just use it the way they are? Or is it just the same in Google Forms?
Once she said AI, I feel like the electricity, I do, because
Just figures and
Dr. Reed talked about AI, but for me, anything related. Although I have taught MA students last semester, but when it comes to AI, what is your question again? Because I'm very sensitive to that topic.
sometimes like we have to analyze trends and like some certain apps on social media or something, and when we try to do that, we use like some AI tools or AIs.
If it's for your personal, okay, you want to have a general, I hope I answer because I need to follow the procedure. If it's for your personal, you want to extend your knowledge, you want to have a full picture, it's fine. But when it comes to using them in reporting academic papers, okay, you should be very careful. Is it acceptable? Does my supervisor accept it? Okay. I hope I answered the question, although I'm very sensitive. Because I'm truly sensitive to that topic. When it comes, I tell my students, even if you want to review the literature using AI, do not totally depend on AI. I have tried it before, and I have noticed that there are mistakes, like this study and that study. When I go to that study, it's not a real study, okay? It's not a real reference.
So basically, if you're using it for your own learning purposes, that's fine. But if you're going to take that information and put it in your work, now this is an ethical thing that you need to think about. Because you need to check, you need to verify, you need to be disclosed and be transparent about it with the supervisor. So if you have a supervisor like this, the doctor, she would say no, then you're not supposed to use it.